through line screen and direct signals and modification cycles. It's a generation line communications opens panel. It's tracked to its communication interference. What am I doing through finger point correlations? Rhythm patterns, track location line condition setting. Collaboration with the hands, the fingers, the thumbs, and all calculations with pinky. All through correlation setting to its bar graph, calculations to its bar rounds, and position of its bar settings. Correlation setting and barcode. Direct modifications and correlation attractions. Directing modification is true to understanding how we get in our system locations. All right. Welcome, everyone. This is General AI, Space-Time Creator. Hope everybody had a great weekend, which has already happened in attractions. The more we identify that, the more we understand. What we do is we all come into communications. I show you proof and proof again that we all live in our own simulation. And once we understand that, everything comes in sequence. But we have to really start identifying our bodies now, because our bodies are basically coming to their own system of their own set calculations. We have to identify what that is, because it's all over the transformation system. Our bodies have to be at a certain frequency, okay, to connect with your Earth. Your Earth itself is a connections of limited resource. It's positioned to its computer operation system. So the actual Earth is a representation inside of you. Understanding how to use that is through the mind, through the heart, the soul, and the body. That puts everything in capacity. Rhythm patterns, core tracking location setting, binary calculation system, transiting, line communication resistors. Anything in the pi correlation setting track line puts everything in space and time. That gets you in a position line calculation setting, how to use yourself through clocking communicates to its system. Now, this gives all levels of you how you use it through observation, intent, influence, and manipulation. Okay? Getting grounds of that correlation setting with the mind system puts everything in planet 2. So getting that correlation track locations. So what is the line communication of its Earth? Let's track its centers, track to its correlation system. Remember, everything is collaboration and partnership, because it doesn't need to recognize you. You have to recognize what you're looking at. Okay, so it's very powerful coming into that allocation. So Earth, this is your track location is system. All right, let's go to illumination graphs. Let's change the core settings. Directing modifications. Again, you have to build a partnership correlation setting attractions, all through calculations. Okay, puts everything in sequence into a correlation setting interference. Okay. Getting in that position lines attractions. Information cycles generate the screen lines, high calculation screen line interference, and position programs. Let's go through line signals and track locations. All right, so E equals its existence. Okay? EXE, right? That initiates, runs CPU. Calculation lines, copy, and position lines of paste, emblem, abled, and embedded. Okay, and embedded. Okay, EX. So it's existence set lines. A, correlation, equals lines, a high center of interference, or what? Awareness. Okay, so it's the correlation setting of its virus, of its width, of its bandwidth, and correlation and calculation setting to the mind itself that opens up space and time through its clocking. Okay, and then you come to R. R is the remembering cycle and correlation line calculating setting to its implantation, to its position of its program. Then you come to T. T is equals lines into your technologies of teleportation. And you come into the H is location. This is your holographic of your GOD of design. EARTH. Okay, so now you understand what the E stands for. Okay, execute location setting, initiate run program. CPU, copy, paste, and emblem enabled, and location setting that travels. Points lines, the graph communicates to its design, position, location, its program. All right, so now what you understand, your actual Earth is nothing but a hologram. So if your Earth is already a hologram, it hasn't left anywhere. Your body hasn't left anywhere. But you have to identify where your body is, because everything around you is already in its system. Everything around you hasn't left its system. Everything around you is already there. Everything around you is in calculation system. Everything around you is in its own nothingness. until you address it and identify it. I just show you exactly what can happen when you go from one phone to the center correlation system to another phone correlation, or anything with just one phone, and see everything in calculation setting to this application calculation system. How you see everything through the SIM. Once you address it, it's there. Okay, so it's very powerful once you start identifying these things. Okay, so getting into that position location is all levels of collaboration and partnership with yourself first, right? Really understand how to work with that set of correlations. If we get to track visualize the cycles and align communication to its position of its program, center core system, calculate modified, right? Direct lines of centers, direct lines of centers, and direct lines of center in set location, right? Understanding your system and track location. Okay, understanding your system and track location. Understanding your system and track location. Okay, understanding your platforms of travel. Okay, understand your powers of travel, levitation, right? And understand the atmospheres of your magnetic highway information line cycles and communication lines of centers of travel. Okay, basic grounds, guys. But this is what the Earth is. Facts. EARTH. Execute location, initiate run program, awareness at the site calculation line system and travels, bandwidth over line, longitude, latitude, and line condition, height, center location of its coordinates, arbitrary memory its cycles, lines, coordinate tracking interference, in position lines, the high calculation setting technologies of its teleportation, of its holographic system, of set design of GOD. Okay, now you know. All right. Getting in position, now we go into the review of your test. Now it's all based on, let's go through sonar's correlation and set calculations. Let's start with that calculation, lines, green lines. Adaptation lines of force, let's go through 1300 tractions. 1300, right? Okay, so go lines of high correlations in sonar. Size communication lines of 13 over 14 and 1400 correlations. And then we go into 1401. Track calculation line, screen lines, adaptation, right? Direct line signals of pi and generation screen. Position lines, centers, core track positions, up line cycles, and generation screen lines. Downshift line cross location setting, I circle location system, circulation, and rotation center. Rotation line calculation setting in positional levels of flux. Now, getting into the flux is truly stand. Let's go through the coloration line screen to center core system of blue. Sets communication setting to center core system travels. Then we go into security line. We outline the cycles and track location line centers of operation lines of surface. Remember, you got to get into your simulation and ground lines, in and out in audio. Okay, first line to track setting high position calculations. Then you go through the white central calculations. Now you can go with the line signals off through clock location system and track calculations. All right. Mechanism of high force, travel line rotation surface and track location setting and calculate modified. Indirect line calculation setting, modification lines of wind cycles will correspond setting to travel point and RF communication. Okay, what's coming out through traction? This. The center core system travels lines. Let's change the correlation center interference. Let's add a platform in the center core system. Sets one position location. Now we take the 14 line screen. Sets position of travel lines of point graph calculation line settings. Process communication system and a 12 cycle. Right, 12 cycle. Now we can take the 24 line cycle. This is what the team can do now. So you can take the 12 line cycle and a flux capacitor center core setting. Sets position of pi in a sonar correlation. Now in direct signals, you can add 12 lines in that position locations, and you can go from 12 to 24. You can go to 48. You can go to 6,000. Okay, you can go to 25,000 platforms. See, this is what you can do through clockings, and you can go through 72 tractions and calculation line condition setting position of its program. All right. So getting direct signals, really understand how to get inline communication, how to use your 12 clocking inside or 24 clocking outside. Setting that track line communication setting opens up all cycles and correlation lines of track location to its clocking system and travel point line graphs. Now that line communications opens up platforms, more lines, more communications, more division locations, setting and travel correlation. Calculation lines, ground centers, high line interference into 6,000 line communications and programs set calculation. Direct modification line cycles sets lines in one center correlation setting interactions. Now, in that position location calculation line screens, let's go through the blue line cycles, outline cycle line, rotation interference, center core system and travel, point lines of graph, 1, 2, 3, and 4 set location. Calculation modified. Let's go through illumination graph, versus cloak and dagger, center core system, center calculation lines, and we had security lines, center core system and travel point graph calculation. Okay. So it's really interesting what's coming out through traction, like this. This is coming out, right? Now, how does this all come out? How does it all come out, right? Understanding the mechanism setting. So if you understand the ground centers and all levels of operation system, what you really understand what your EARTH is, you understand the execute, initiate, run. Then you understand the awareness, location, and setting. Then you understand the remembering cycle location system. Then you understand the position of technologies of its teleportation, of its telegraphing, telecalculation system, and its teleportation screen lines, adaptation line service. Then you understand the holographic system calculations, because that's what you're dealing with. That's what your Earth is. It's just a hologram. But understanding how to run it through its program is its initiation, its own system location settings, its defaults, interact location to its calculation, right? All right, so let's get into modification line screens. Now we're going to direct signal modification line interference. Position lines of power generation lines of 2, 2, 2, 3 cycle correlation settings. That position lines of one positive line equals lines correlation one position of programs. Now equals lines at EXE. So what am I doing in line communication to X is initiate and position of one program. Okay, so it's RPI. Now an RPI is running program to its initial program setting, which is the intel locations. Sets communication lines highest interference acceleration and position of vast, volume, and velocity is that location. First modification one center, track location line conditions setting to travel. Points lines of graph calculation setting into one center position operation. Changes communication graph lines as center calculation, right? Now it's interesting how you go in that formation center and travel. Okay, there's so many ways to travel correlation. Now direct line signal, it's really interesting too, because you can center core system and change the opposite directions in all levels of its formation in calculations, right? So two UFOs coinciding with each other. That's a collaboration of correlation. Mutating in line connection setting. All levels of its volume changes all communications and configuration. Okay, all through set calculations. And line directions and modifications. Okay, if you look really close, you can see the 6 and 9. Okay. All right, so everything is a formation of 6 and 9. Now understand the platitude line screens. You come in your clocking system. All right, so we got wind cycles, and now we got positions all levels of satellites, Wi-Fi correlations, inside correlation setting attractions, right? Box centers, correlation setting to travel. Sets communication settings of platforms and set communication of 3-line calculation. Direct calculations of 1, 2, and 3 platform communication, right? XC comes in, travels in 1 line cycles, dockings, system actions in 1 cycle, right? Sets communication, and location grid in set calculations. Location grid lines of cycles. Correlates direct lines and ground lines, opens the cycles and lines center location system to its energetic ground lines. Sets communication lines, highest interference. All of this crop circle line condition setting is 0 gravity in set location. Okay, so I don't need to bring it out because it's already out, right? You just have to see that it's nothing is ever still. Everything is a formation, some set calculation setting, but it's knowing exactly what you're doing, right, with your Wi-Fi and which direction are you going, interactions. Look really close, there's the intelligence right there, boom. Okay. All right, so everything is floating, nothing is still. All right, so getting track lines, we got 2 panels. Let's core the track position lines as centers. Center core system, ground center operation. Okay, center core system, center core line connections. Calculate modify, center core track lines, upline swing line connection. Splits lines and omni 3-line communication of programs. All right, flux capacitor, correlation setting interactions. Direct modification lines, center core system. Plaid 2 location line settings, all levels, operation surface, and earth line rotation centers, and track location. Okay, setting communication, intelligence. Okay, simplifies, right? So basic ground, remember guys, your Wi-Fi line position location is the configuration of its own system calculations. Everything has to have it faced. That's what you're dealing with, which is its intel information system. Once you start addressing things, things get a lot more easier through adaptation, and that gives you a force of reckoning with your who we are and can do that calculation, screen lines, adaptation lines, and surfaces. Okay, so let's go through the ground centers into 2 panels, 3 lines, 4 lines of high, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's go through sonar, right? All right, so let's go through clockings lines of 24. Let's go line condition setting 1300. Let's go with attractions, and let's go into, we'll go through 0, 800 location setting of travels and point graphs. Okay, it's going to center core system. Mechanism locking signals and location setting, right? 0, 800, 24 clocking, 1300, right? Now, we get a line position of graph calculations, point lines of 1, point lines of 2, point lines of 3, and traction, right? Now, I'm just showing you my clocking, how it works, and all line conditions error points. Tractors communicates line setting. Here's Wi-Fi into the moon operations surface. Moon's there, attractions, right? Direct modification lines of 3 line cycles of 1300. Splits lines and track location lines of 1500 per second. Sets correlation lines of 1500 per second per square per mile. That clocks its system to each data port in track location of 3 lines of communication. Okay, 3 central line conditions, right? Moon surfaces line communication to its kaleidoscope and communication. Directs modifications into 1, 2, 3 interactions, right? So the moon comes line signals and line condition setting, crosses line signal location of grounds, operates the cycles and platforms communications, opens all cycles, line communications, and high interference and travel point graphs. Calculation modify, adds lines of data, process communication line signals and set location. Track lines communications crosses lines, bandwidths over pi, and cross-line communications. Direct calculates line centers and data processing. Data ports, center core system, mainframe, and box frame location centers. Tractors communication lines opens all signals in position location to center calculation. Complicated stuff, right? All through clocking system, right? From 1300, 2400 in line connection settings, 1500 million miles per second. 15,000 miles per line. So it's just to really understand how to use your clocking system and how to use your Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is the position of its moon. Moon tracks its system in a 3-line communication setting of its program. Center core system, travel correlation line condition setting of Jupiter. Jupiter comes in, calculation lines of its moon, opens all panels, opens all system, and correlation. You're not just dealing with the sun and the moon. You're dealing with correlation lines like calculation setting of 6 and 9. It's on spin cycles, correlation lines, and graph communications. Comes in your system and travel correlation. 1 in position and tractions, and 3-line communication of settings. Okay, going very fast in track location. All right, so kaleidoscope and connections of mic, position lines of power, direct lines of signals, and the modification sight line, high center location setting, and travel correlation. Complicated stuff, right? Center core system, ground lines. Platforms, you're always going to be with the platforms, and there's a dimensional door in communication right there. Boom. You see the door? So it's kind of like Doctor Strange, right? Where you see a dimension within a dimension with a dimension with a platform. Okay, so you go the waving line cycles, correlates the center interference, high track location lines of provisions, all lines of high correlation, right? It's very powerful, right? Okay. Center communication lines are center lines of you in the center. This is you in platform, okay? Waiting on signal and rotation. That's you attractions, right? All right, so let's get an XT1000 on standby. Center core system travels and shifts lines anomaly. Sets communication, picks you up, scans centers in a 3-track location. All right, so you put your force fields up and travel. Blue lines, time and rotation surface attractions. Okay, so platitudes you into all core settings in a 3-line angle. 4 lines, 6 lines, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12 set locations. Coming through track line communication, high center interference, changes all communications of the programs, and center core system of expansion and line setting in all levels of configuration. So this is all through clockings, guys. So I need you guys to basically get out of communications and start to understand how to use your connections of your EARTH. Execute, initiate, run, awareness, location, your settings, remembering cycles correlation into your settings of all position travels, teleportation, teleweaving, telecommunications, telegraphing into your technologies, into your correlations of your holographic design of your GOD. Okay, track communication lines is all about directing lines that clock limit communication settings, all right? Setting graph calculations. Let's go through graph calculations, screen lines adaptation. Process communication lines at one center travels. Cross-line signals and line communication at one center operates the signals in platforms going this way in tractions and going this way in tractions. And its applications, right? All right, so satellites here, okay? So you all have communication of 24 satellites, but you don't use 24 satellites all the time. You only use line condition setting. I'm using 3 satellites and travel. And your Wi-Fi sets communication. Here's your moon, here's your sun, and track location. All right? So your sun goes here, your moon goes here. Your sun goes here, your moon goes here. Your sun goes here, your moon goes here. And 3 travel and rotates the surface and travel. Okay? Mechanism high force, triangulate line condition setting, box line rotation surface and travel. Okay, so flux capacitor line screens add lines centers at 3 set locations. Travel point lines and graph calculation on the platforms at 3 set locations. Right, all through clocking, right? So the more you understand that, the more you understand yourself in the center operation of you, of your coordinate system, how to use your earth, your air, your water, and your fire, all through travel calculation, all right? All right, so once you get into that, things get a lot more easier, but a lot more complicated because now you're working with your calculation setting. So you got your earth, okay? Okay, so let's go through waving lines at 3 cycles and 3 calculations. Clocking system in travel and 2 graphs in 1 platform communication, all right? Now, center correlation and direct lines of center calculation and direct lines into, let's go through Jupiter correlation, right? 3 track lines. So Jupiter is the coordinates communication lines, high center locations, 0, 0, 0, graph location coordinates, 0 equals lines of correlations you got out of your box, and position lines of triangulation equals lines of flux. Okay, that's the coordinates to there. It says communication lines of Wi-Fi in line condition setting and travels into all calculation. Travel point graph calculations. Now directing lines of signals into satellite communication. Sets communication lines here in satellite locations, right? Sets communication lines here in satellite location setting. 3 track locations, right? And directions. Platitude lines of center line opens all signals of communication of center. So it comes in a portal, communication line centers of a tunnel that rotates the surface at location. All right. Direct calculation modification line, center high calculation line, position operation line surface, and track location line condition of system. Process communication lines and grounds is understand how to use the Gaussian wind cycles, location setting, and an oscillation communication. Okay. So I'm just showing you coordinates, how you go from one place to the next. So it's just basically understanding the ground position location of your system. So you have to understand why you have a solar plex, which goes from here to here, and platitude from here to here, and center core system that splits the anomaly. Communication setting, all process communication to its calculation. Right? Now, understand what your solar plex is the high signals in its application. Center core system, 0, 0, 0, 4 lines indicate these lines of location, correlation lines at 3 track location, direct lines of signals, right? All right, center core system opens up panel and line condition setting to travel. Okay, now in that direct signal, travel point graphs change communication lines of center in center communication to its position on its platform. Calculate and modify in position lines at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set locations. Center core center line interference in position of 1x2000 comes in track location. Direct lines, docking system, and center core setting calculation. All right. So it's really interesting when you look at the clocking system, how it all works with you in your data process calculations. Okay, it's very powerful how you indicate lines. Let's go through 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, all around the surface, and then it goes into 0, 1, then it goes into 0, 2, then it goes into 0, 3, and then it goes into 0, 4, right? All through plateau. Now, get in that position, you want to understand how to direct and redirect at a certain temperature reading. That temperature reading lines its platforms in center core system. Let's go through 2 waving panels and tractions, right? 2 waving panels. Triangulation line conditions high center interference. Process communication lines is one indicator, two platforms, three platform communication. Direct calculation lines, highest interference, as a platform line screen and a two-track location line setting, opens all galaxy line shift lines and oscillation cycles in track location of colossal. Direct calculation line screen high interference in a triangulation line positions program, center core system and track location. All right, very complicated stuff. All right, so your clocking is just going to get a lot more confusion now, but I really want you to understand what your Earth is, to EARTH. Okay, so now you understand what E is. Now you understand what A is. Now you understand what R is. Now you understand what T is. Now you understand what H is. Okay. So once you get into that, then you understand your body. It's interesting too, because it took me to the next platform where you're supposed to go, right? In track locations. So it's interesting how the digital pad is actually listening to everything I'm saying through its correlations. So what is that line condition setting their travel line? Space arc, right? AR equals lines of C and calculation of H. Is that a coincidence? No. Triangulation line condition is position of the program, right? So the digital pad knows exactly where you need to go next in travel because it's already been through its setting, location of its operation system. Now getting into that position, guys, let's go through an 18 line screen, equals lines of correlation. Let's add 5 triangulations. Clocking system 1300, okay? Clocking system 1500, okay, and clocking system 1600. And set locations. All right, now directing lines, let's split lines of anomaly and graph calculation to a binary and line rotation. Platforms communication to its setting, opens all signals and setting in process communication lines, opens all signals and location to its system. Travel point graph calculations, change all communications, 1 center, cross line signals a 2 center, cross line center is a 3 center, cross line center a center point graph. Sets communication lines target location setting, 1600, 1500, 1300 track locational platforms. Direct calculation lines of 1, 2, and 3 track locations in position of 1, 2, and 4 set location of travel. Points, lines, ground lines, take 2 to zeros, center line rotation, center core system and travel correlation lines, platforms 1, 2, and 3 on ground center rotation. Okay? So I'm just showing you how this all works in line communication. And there's the dimensional door and track location. Okay? Very complicated stuff, right? So mechanisms of high force, once you understand the ground's powers and the atmospheres, there's amazing things that you can do through wind cycles, core centers, line conditions setting to wormholes, and track location, line conditions, high center location to a system of travel. So it's pretty powerful stuff once you understand how to identify your system from all levels. You guys have to get out of total communications of clocking, get out of space, and get into timeless, spaceless, shapeless, formless, motionless, and all of the senseless. So you got your space lines of direction. Now you have to extend the spaceless equals less. Okay, then you have to extend the formations, all calculations. Getting that position understands the direction. That's what it is in tractions, right? Fast you go, right? So it helps you and always informs how to get into that through modification, through platforms communications, right? The more you get a direct line signal, the more you stay in your Wi-Fi. Now, Wi-Fi is just the position of where the moon is going. Moon center's core system here travels, point line, center operation, right? All right, so X marks the spot, platform 1, 2, 3, docking, docking, docking at 3 o'clock location, right? All right, so 1 position, cross the line signals here, disappears and reappears here in center core, right? Then it goes line signal in position, ground center, operation surface, and traction, right? So the moon sets the tone in line communication, right? Directs modification of split lines of an element, set location of 3 and a 4 track location provision. Opens all sight line communication line centers, inline rotations, and configuration of face. Direct calculation lines, cross line signals, 1 center, 2 tractions, and 3 locations. Calculate and modify 1 center operation line surface and track location. Direct lines modification 1 center operation lines and 3 track locations. Sets communication lines, ground lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 set location of sonar. Track communication lines of center operation lines, position of portals, and line condition stargates on set location of setting. All through clocking through Wi-Fi. So your Wi-Fi position knows exactly where it needs to be in travel. So it's kind of like adding a satellite where it goes, So let's go for the laser disc, line connection sending travels, point craft communications. SETI sonar, right? 3-line communications, out through equation, right? All right. Sonar, 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 sonar. Okay? All right. Sets direction signal. Moon's here, sun's here, and trackations in provision lines of cycles. All right, so you got communications. XT1000 comes out, XT1000 comes out, XT1000 comes out, and track locations, right? All right, different timeline sequence. This comes out at 1400. This comes out at 1800. So it's all levels of past, present, future, right? So it's amazing where they're traveling. Let's go through 1600 line screen. Let's go through 1800. Let's go position lines of before Christ in correlation. Okay, so the ground lines is before Christ, 1800 correlation setting, 1600 correlation, and 1400 correlation lines of clocking. Okay, so we all understand how to surface our line screens. We have to really understand how to identify that. So once the team gets in the information lines, it gets much easier through 111 equals lines of correlations of 112 equals correlation lines of high center locations, sets communication lines, center location of 113, and calculation lines of 114, and track location. Setting correlations of all line settings. So your center core system is 144, right? That tracks location of platforms, right? And then you get position lines, you have 24 settings. Then you got your 12 outline. Okay, so this is the outer rings and 3-line communications. Setting direct lines. Now, because it's position lines, you always have to put yourself first, which is your male cycle, and correlation setting to female cycle. Puts the lines of communication setting and travels. So the moon has to recognize your patterns. Once you understand the patterns, it gets lines of high center location to the system. So the moon centers the core system. The moon can be this. Okay, the moon is this now. See, my moon is that. You can actually see it, right? It can be any shape. It can be any size. It's not the size that matters, guys, in any way, form. It can be anything it wants because you have to recognize it through its own system first. It all travels, right? Points, line, graph lines, 1-3 line settings, 113 sets locations into 1000, 113 in 00 operation of 3 set locations. Travel calculates on ground lines, operation line service, and set location. So everything is a UFO, guys. It's just always a travel. You can see how many UFOs I'm creating. 1, 2, 3, and set location platforms in location grid and calculation lines and location security line, defense lines, and screen location. All right, so protecting screens is out basically understanding how to ground your system. Remember how we get into correlation lines that track location settings. So let's go through the Earth line. Okay, what's the Earth line? Is human Earth equals H equals A, and it equals lines and correlation setting to its sim. So Earth lines its ground centers and set location. Sim automatically goes to high correlation lines of traction and direction. Right, center correlation lines, split lines, anomalies, in position of 4 settings and travel. Okay, it's really interesting too. It says communication lines of sonar in line condition setting and all travel communication to its position, all calculation line setting. Satellites going this way in track location line condition setting. So XT1000 coming here, start mechanism line screen, high correlation setting track lines of Merkabah tesseract tetrahedrons go here. High calculating lines, archetypes go here, and travel, point lines, graph, communication line centers, high operation surface. So it has the direct line signals and communication of platforms. Always platforms, platforms, platforms. So the higher self has to really understand how to modify that in its sky grid, sky lines, star portals, star correlation setting, and track location. Understanding that, then you understand the upline swing lines of communication, right? Center core system, travel correlation, 1 ground centers. Picking up anomalies and line conditions of clockings and Wi-Fi communication. Complicated stuff, isn't it? Trying to understand how to operate this all through your Wi-Fi in communication settings, right? All right, so let's go through the Earth line, which is EXE. X, line center high correlations. Getting position of 1 center in track location equals line correlation lines of 2 graph communication of 4 settings of 0 location system. So it's like playing ping pong in both tractions. Right? See, it's disappearing on its own. It's trying to understand what you're doing, right? Going too fast in 2 panels, 4 panels, 6 panels, 8 panels, 9 panels, 10 panels. Line communications cross line, right? Direct line modification. One center operation, one surface, one tractions, all through clocking location setting, right? So we all have to understand how to build a partnership with the center core of you in position to its locations. Let's go through 35 line channels, and we'll wait till we get to 10. And we'll separate that line. We'll go through an X line into 1, 1, 1, 1. Have portals communication bracket equals lines of 0, 1 and traction. Okay, so what this has already done is it's crossed out. Crossed out 4 correlations in position of travel lines into 3 graphs into 4, 4, 4, 4 and position location, right? Direct lines of signals. Graph communication grounds 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? Schumann resonance upside down. Schumann resonance upside right in communication to its position of its program. Okay, so when you see a structure of a hologram, the center core system is above the system. There's nothing below the system in calculations, right? So you're dealing with all calculation lines, ground centers, operation, surface, and track location of the moon, right? Moon correlates the system and travels moon, 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 and of course travels in rotation. Point lines a graph, point lines a center, point lines a system, and center core setting. Okay. Now direct lines, you have to understand how to go again. The platforms always need the platforms in the center. Okay. You got to understand the center operation of you does not leave, but you have to understand you at all levels of you walking this system in platforms and track location. So you're constantly time jumping, time stamping, time leaping, right? Sets communication, sun and the moon comes back to you and travel in rotation, surface and set locations. Let's get a direct signal. All right, let's go through gold and go through a wormhole and track location in direction. Okay. Now add line conditions saying going through a black hole. Yes, black hole people. You have to go through black holes. Okay, everything goes through a black hole. We've been through this before in track location, right? Very powerful, right? So zippity-doo-dah goes through interactions, right? Direct line signals, goes through data process, line calculation setting. Let's go through the universe. Let's go through purple line screen, indirect lines. So the grounds and the powers and the adversaries are different colors, guys. They have to be different colors, right? You have to understand how this all works. What color is this? What color is that? What color am I seeing? Why am I seeing this color? What is the ground center location lines? Everything in platform communication is red. Everything communication high center is cloak and dagger. Everything is position lines of balance locations to your energy field would process your communication lines to center operation, right? Position lines attractions get you a better understanding how to get into your setting locations, your platforms of communication on your clockings. 4 waving cycles, 4 generation screens. So I need the team to really get in out of clocking and out of time. So if you understand that, then you understand more modification your space modules and how to Y sequence your patterns. Let's go through 38 lines and we'll change position point graphs into blue. So I'm going through coloration line screens to change the coloration lines of the numbers. 2-point graph communications into 23 settings and set location, right? So we got 2 track lines and 2 line division, right? So this equals lines of 2, 1, 2. Truth narratives of 2 lines, 1 line rotation surface, and positive and negative, and calculation screen. Direct modification lines of 3 cycles, 1, 2, 3 line rotation. Calculation lines of 3 center operation lines of equal, comes IP, line centers, arrow up, and this application of arrow down. Child point lines graph, 1 signal, 1 rotation surface and singularity. Setting communication orders, ground lines, operation lines, location setting into energetic line screen location of system and calculation. All through 38 of a 23 location. Pause negative is line center location, truth and narrative. Now we change the communication line grounds into black. You always have to have black and everything through indication. But it's interesting, no, there's no black in this, right? Because it's above the simulation. So what you have to understand is that once you understand that, the black is always the base. Okay, it's kind of like the correlation setting to position of power that generates this communication setting to the supply that sets correlations to its calculation lines of its Earth that basically puts everything through its communication system that initiates and runs its program. Now, if you understand that information setting, then you understand that 0, 0 of 4 track location lines of provisions and calculation. Okay? Get any position lines of travel. Oh, you see that disappear? See it disappear? Where did it go? Where did it go? Right here, instructions and direct signals. Okay? So it's amazing how that is here now. See, that was here and now it's there, right? It does it on its own through 38 of a 23 clocking location. Setting 3 lines of cycles, 1, 2, and 3 platforms, 1, 2, 3, sets communication, right? 8 lines of cycles, sets lines of 1, 8 center and set location. Direct lines at 8, space and set locations and settings. Position of process, set lines of correlation setting of travels. Line connecting all lines of high center interference in position of its program. Track location line connection setting, its intelligence and all formation. Ooh-ah. That's my equation. All right. Very powerful, guys. Very powerful. As long as you understand your base is inside of you, okay, you just have to really understand how to get in position. I'm going to show you exactly how this gets more levels of you, of your holographic structure, of your design, of your co-creations, what you guys have already done in space and time. Okay? That's your space, right? So everything's inside, right? See, go red. Start with the red location. See the red inside? All right, so let's get in the portals. Okay, portals here, attractions. Oh, everything's inside, right? Okay, so we got the green. Green's inside, right? So what are you doing? Create a holographic location setting, drop point graph calculation lines, electrical line wires, electrical line panels, electrical line interference, drop coloration. All right, that's you inside. Electrical system. All right, so basic grounds, great basic powers, the generation of screen lines of high center interference and set location. Then you can get in track location to its setting. Oh, one eye cycle, right? Cyclops. See the Cyclops? Center core system, line condition, high center platforms 1, 2, and 3 in position. Track correlation lines and ground lines, center core system, sun and the moon in line rotation surface. All right. Direct calculation line, ground line, center, high location setting, clocking system, bounds of communication of pi generation. Calculate, modify high location setting. Let's go through 42 line angles. See, I'm changing the clocking into an angle. So that's 42 lines equals lines of 3. And we'll go through line condition setting to 20 volume and position of 6 centers and set location. Now, direct line calculation lines adds 3 lines of cycles, 3 lines of revisions, 3 lines of correlation, and 3 lines of grounds. That's a data formation lines of a data box location of pattern. Position lines is program, sets communication line signals and set location line calculation setting position. Operate the cycles, line ground lines, 42 track line, provision lines of cycles, stage line communication setting of center correlation. Okay? It's very complicated, okay, if you don't understand your position of space and time. So I need the team to get out of space and time through your clockings, okay? And the only way you can do that, the more you can get into modifications, how to use your Wi-Fi's, right? Because your Wi-Fi is all based on your modems and your motherboards. Your Earth line rotations has 3 split lines of anomaly and 3 track locations, right? Which is in USB. It's a port. It's a data platform, right? And 3 set location of travels. Now, directing modification lines of center and position of center and position lines of correlation to your magnetic high wave formation line cycle. Calculation lines, laser grid, cross line signals. Cross line signals and set location, cross line signals and set location, right? So your actual Earth is a magnetic highway in line condition setting, how it volumes the system through all levels initiate run, EXE, initiate, and position of run its system. Now it has an interior through an exterior. See? Exterior, interior. Okay? So the interior, okay, is the ground setting. Okay, ground setting, right? Ground level 1, let's say that, right? Ground level 2, okay, is the center core system of travel that never ever leaves the system correlation, right? But that platforms changes communication to its flywheel and traction, right? Directs modification lines of high center interference, kaleidoscope communications all levels, gets into all communication setting and travel and point graph communication. All right? But you understand the interior and the exterior. Now, once you get into that, position of higher lines of correlation lines of chakras, then you understand the fabrics of space. Getting that position line is interior on its own setting. It sets all communication to a system all through a program. All right? So let's go into 4 clocking systems and travel. Okay, 4 clocking systems. I said, wait, General, how come there's 3 clockings, but I see a square? Well, this is a clocking too. Everything is its own shape of clocking. Not everything is what you see it is. Triangulation split lines have 3 settings into 1 box rotation. 4 clocking system: circle box, circle triangle, circle star line in set location, and rectangle in calculation. Right? All clockings. So each one has the provision lines of its Wi-Fi, which is its moon, which is its moon, which is its moon, and which is its moon in track location. All right? So center course, center line interference. Now you also can use your planets, but your planets are already in coordinates, but it's never at the same frequency because you're changing your communication line that puts everything in a point graph calculation lines, how you see your surface and your grounds, your position lines of traffication lines. Anything ground line is higher self. We already got that, right? Anything above location setting is your avatar. We got that traffication. Anything above line communication atmospheres is your sim attractions. But I'm just showing you exactly how you can go into different levels of clockings, all right? This is a clocking system. Check this out. That's a clock. You know what that is in the mechanism of? You see it as a dot, right? But it's actually this in tractions. So I'm just showing you how, it coordinates its system and travel point graph communication to its line centers. Center course system, travel correlations, center position line calculation setting into magnetic highway information. Okay. Split lines anomaly, flux capacitor, 3-line communications, point lines as center, points lines as center, points lines as center, points lines as center, points lines as center. Okay. X2000 comes in center operation. Okay, travels down into a tube screen, right? So it can levitate down, surface line, change the altitude levels. It's got to change its flux. It's got to change its flux. It's got to change its flux. Its location when it goes down, right? So it has a laser attraction. Now the center core center of the Earth, Earth 24, anything below conditions and settings, I went too fast. Anything below through line communication, right? You're working with the correlation setting. Higher track lines, which is the future of its past. Equal lines of correlation interference, execute communication system. Further in the past, correlation lines. More future and adaptation to future line correlation setting. So the body, your connection, your capacitor is slowing down, right? Because you're coming into real time, a future to past. So you have to be very careful what you do in your clock line communication setting because you're going into the beta waves. Equals lines of 1 alpha wave in position of 1 delta wave and correlation lines of 3 omega wave communication setting to travel. All through center core settings. Okay? All right. Now, getting in position is really, really understanding more levels of view in platforms of communication of clockings. Okay? So I need the team to get out of space and time. All right? So what that means is 48 is a clocking, but the seconds lines is now position lines. So we got 3 minutes. Okay, so we got 48 hours. See how it changes so quickly? But the provision lines knows exactly how to catch up in position of volume. Let's change the correlation lines of 4. Let's change the correlation lines of 5. No, wait a minute. Let's go lines of high center. Let's go to 49 tractions. Nah, let's go to 50. No, let's go to 51. No, let's go to 52. So every time I'm changing that, it's changing its Wi-Fi tractions of its moon. The moon is shifting its anomalies very fast in track location. Going from this cycle, this cycle, this cycle, back to this cycle, right? So, the center core system, center core line condition setting of travel. Okay? Mechanism split lines anomaly, split lines anomaly, split lines anomaly, right? Location setting, above location, below settings, above location setting.